Hello, Pete. Got your carburetors here. Maybe you can see it. The number here is 21996, and over here we've got 22063. 22063. You should be able to see that. Get the glare off of there. And I'm using macro so that you should be able to see close up. Anyway, let's go over your carburetors here real quick. We've got all new factory gaskets, which you can tell by the red color. For instance, these are red gaskets here, and the diaphragms are red. All the machine work has been done. We got new butterflies, we've got new butterfly shafts, we've got new bushings in the body of the carburetor. Got new ball studs here. We've had the idle mixture screw holes have been machined. All the mating surfaces have been machined. We've got helicoils where need be to reinforce the threads. All the plating here is the original cadmium, not zinc or anything like that. I'm trying to think. We've got critical things that you need to remember concerning these carburetors. Fuel cleanliness is paramount, and I recommend you run an extra inline fuel filter from the from your original fuel filter selector valve and prior to the fuel pump, and run another inline filter. When you are mounting these carburetors, use 2 wrenches, one here to stabilize this fitting, and then you twist this fitting, but stabilize this fitting so it does not move in the body, otherwise you'd run the chance of ripping it out of the body. You should not need to adjust anything, but if something should happen, I mean, you certainly are welcome to adjust the carburetors to your engine, and that would mean adjusting your idle mixture screw, and these take very little movement to make a great deal of difference, and I'll show you how those operate in a little bit. This idle mixture screw on the second barrel is a dummy. It does not do anything. Don't touch it. There's nothing there for you to do. Also, in case under normal circumstances, when you rebuild your carburetors, you screw the idle mixture screw down until it seats, and then you back it off 1.5 turns. And if you're in that situation, remember, all you're doing is screwing this thing down until it just barely touches, and then back it out. Don't screw it down and wrench it down tight as if you're securing the Eiffel Tower to the ground. It's not necessary. All you need to do is screw it down and touch the inside the carburetor, and then back it off 1.5 turns, and that's your basic setting. And then you start adjusting your carburetor from there. Let's see, what else have we got to cover. Mounting, I'll give you full mounting instructions, and use a crisscross pattern when mounting the carburetors to draw them down uniformly. One of the best things you can use in this situation is a 1/4-inch drive 14 millimeter universal or swivel socket. That'll make your life a lot easier. Do not forget the support rod that comes up and attaches to the air log. Oh, another thing, when you're installing these carburetors, install them loose to where they will move up and down, and then put your air log in place. Big old air log right here. Make sure it all fits, and then tighten down your carburetors, and then remove your air log. And that way, when you come to put the air log on for the final time, it's going to slide right on, because otherwise these things have enough movement that you can make it to where your air log will not install on the carburetors. The only adjustments you really can make is you can adjust these set screws and jan nuts, and what they do is this raises and lowers the choke levers to line up with your choke rod coming down. Before you install your choke cable, make sure it's fully lubed, and make sure it feels good when you pull it on the dash, and everything's good there. And you'll notice that these work just fine. And then when you install the choke cable, you'll notice it's really hard to pull, and that's because this is a miserable design, and you're pulling you're trying to go up with something that's trying to curve out, and it makes for a difficult pull. So just keep all that in mind. You need to lubricate the choke cable as much as you can to decrease the friction. Let's see. Okay, I think now we got a cold engine. Obviously, it's cold. I've been standing here talking to you, and we'll start the testing procedure. First thing you do, if your car's been sitting for a while, make sure you got fuel up to the carburetors. With the crappy fuel we have nowadays, and the car's sitting for a while, the fuel will evaporate out of the float bowl. So that's why the priming lever is here, making sure we got fuel. And go to the. Some of this is going to be out of focus because, like I said, I've got it on macro, so you can see something. And next, we're going to what I do is goose the throttle a couple times, and we give it some choke. And while you're warming up, you can pull the choke cable in and out as you need to keep the engine running, and then slowly decrease it depending upon the ambient temperature. Now notice, see if you can notice this. Okay, when I'm operating the choke right here, notice this rod's moving. What you're doing is, in addition to operating the choke lever, you're actually operating the throttle. You're opening up the throttle on the carburetors. So it's as if you had your foot on the gas. Now you can't tune these things until they get warmed up, and you can't see it because it's a little, well, let's see. You can see it by doing this. All right. So we don't have water temperature yet. So I'm gonna let these idle. In the meantime, I'm gonna hook up the oil tachometer machine, and so we can check idle. I've got a tachometer hooked up to the engine, but it's not very accurate. So while those carburetors warm up, I'm going to hook up the test machine. Okay, getting some temperature. That'll get to about 160, then the thermostat will open. In the meantime, you can see we've got our engine analyzer, and what we're looking for here is we're checking the we got our idle RPM, and let's see, we're on the low scale. So what we're reading right here is, sorry about the glare, reading RPM, and come over here to running about 800, 900, and that'll probably settle down when it gets warmed up. So, waiting for temperature. Well, looks like we may already have temperature. Okay, not moving. Now then, since this thing idles on the first barrel of each carburetor, we want to make sure that the second barrels are not processing any air. And what we do to check that is we use our synchrometer. And these are great. Get them off of internet, off eBay, that sort of thing. And you're going to get the BK2-40. That's the unit you want to use. And what we're doing is, all it does is measure airflow. So right now we're going to check airflow, and our red indicator is up the top. You see it didn't move. Coming over here. You see it didn't move. Now we're going to put on the first barrel, and you can see the red indicator move. And so this is how we tune the carburetors, how we adjust the amount of airflow going through the carburetors, so they're adjusted with each other. Now, it doesn't necessarily matter the amount of airflow. This gauge may not be accurate compared to another gauge, but all we want is the relative amounts. So, what we're going to do first is disconnect the throttle linkage and make sure the engine doesn't run away with itself. And the reason for that is we want to make sure the throttle linkage is not affecting our idle adjustment, idle synchronization, the amount of airflow going through each carburetor. So what we've got here is, from my perspective, looks like it's between 8 and 9. And of course I've already adjusted these things, obviously. It's between 8 and 9 right there, but if for some reason it's out of adjustment, for instance right here where you can see I've upped the idle, well, we just come back it off, so between 8 and 9. And if you don't have one of these things and you want to adjust your idle, screw in each of these the same amount, because they're the same thread pitch and they will make the same adjustment on each carburetor, and you'll still be in sync. So you just very carefully screw it in or out, the amount that you want, and do it to both carburetors, and you'll be all set. And then what we're going to do is we want to come here and we want to replace our throttle, snap in our throttle linkage. And what we're going to do is this is on a turnbuckle. All the other measurements I will give you on a sheet of paper, factory measurements, and this last measurement is just a beginning as to where you need to be in terms of the balls here. The actual length is not important, because when you get your carburetors adjusted and mounted and everything's all the other linkages are lined up, then all you do is use your turnbuckle feature here and dial this in to where all you do is come in here and snap that in place and nothing changes. That's the ultimate goal. Now then, idle mixture screws are these guys right here. And these you probably want to adjust to suit your engine. And what you're doing is you screw them in until the engine starts to stumble, you screw it out until the engine starts to stumble, and you get the midpoint. And this doesn't take much. These are very sensitive since we have these machines. Now, you hear that stumble? Our RPM is dropping off. I'll make it more dramatic. You see it start to shake, so we go back where we were, obviously, because we had it adjusted correctly the first time. Same thing over here. Starting to stumble. Come back. the stumble, get our midpoint, and then let me switch the tachometer on the gauge over to the high range, and we want repeatability. We go back to where we were. Now then, just for fun, we will see how low these will go, how low they will idle. So we start backing it off, which is just a measure of how good the machine work is. So let's back that off. That's screw. Back that one off. Back that one off. Back that one off. So we can check to see what we're running here. Okay, I've got between 7 and 8 over here. Between 7 and 8. See how that worked? As I adjusted both screws the same amount, kept these in synchronization. Now let's go over here to our tachometer. This is fun. We're on the low scale. That's 600. We're idling at 700. We can go even lower. Let's back this one off. Quarter turn. Quarter turn. And I'm pushing on the linkage because my return spring is not as stout as it would be on the car. Now let's go over here. And here's our idle at about, get the glare out of the way. Where's my screwdriver? Okay. 400, 450 is our idle. Now you can't beat that with a stick. So now we are going to put these things back where they were. I'm going to give that a half turn. Give that a half turn. Our idle is back up to about 700. Let's give it another quarter turn to get up to about 800, which is where the factory says. So doing this quarter turn over here, quarter turn. Yeah, we're at indicated 825. Let's see how synchronized we are. Okay, that's running between 8 and 9. And that's between 8 and 9. So that's how easy it is to keep these things synchronized. A big part of this is the fact that you should have new ball sockets here, new throttle linkage, new ball sockets and ball studs, and then make sure your bushings and throttle rod are here in good condition, because any slop anywhere along there is going to make your life difficult in terms of adjusting these things. Those are some really nice carburetors. Alright, now we're going to try a hot start. And we've got dry carburetors, which is very important. The problem I had previously that I mentioned to your email was this carburetor throat was flooding, and we traced it to a defective air corrector jet inside there. It was just amazing. I've never had that happen, so learn something new every day in these things. So I'm very pleased with these carburetors. I think you will be too. They will require minimal adjustment and should give you years of service. And thank you very much for your patience.